Let's talk about a book that was so significant in both of our lives and many, many lives that we have shared this with, and that this book has been shared with throughout the world. Don Miguel's 4 Agreements.
Yeah, I think that's really a beautiful way to go about life, is to look at these 4 agreements and to see how can I apply this in my personal everyday life. Not some days when I want to and some days when I don't want to. Like the very first one is be impeccable with your word. And that has got quite a deep meaning, right?
Yeah, let's go into that. Remember that we cannot not create. So every time we open our mouths, well, actually every time we think a thought, but particularly every time we open our mouths, because when we open our mouths, we share that with someone else and give them that same thought, we are creating something. So to be impeccable with your word means that you are aware of this and that you are conscious about what you are creating and taking responsibility for the impact that your word has on another.
Yeah, so the word impeccable, the meaning of that is without sin. So being able to be in alignment with what it is that I am putting out there for myself, and then to show up for that. And to be able to know that when I'm not going to do something, I don't even speak it. When it comes up in my mind, I cancel it. But when it's something that I know I'm going to show up for, I get to express that. So to be impeccable with my word, to be sure that I have these 2 gods, one this side and one that side, that is standing guard and making sure that I'm in alignment with what it is that comes out of my mouth, and show up for that. And if I'm not going to be, have these 2 gods stop me from getting that to come out of myself.
So the second agreement is to not take anything personally. This one can be really difficult because a lot of stuff feels very personal. But remember the subconscious mind. Remember that we have no idea why anybody does anything. What they say, what their experiences have given them, what their filters are, we don't really know. And even if we were to ask them, we still don't really know because they also don't really know. They've also only got a limited understanding about why they do stuff, because the subconscious mind is so much more aware than the conscious mind is. So it's really so much easier to just let go of this personal nature, the personal attachments, the self-identity that has an interest in being liked or being seen a certain way or being loved, its own personal agenda. It is so much easier to just put that down.
So not to take anything personally. Let's look at that for a moment. The second that I decide or I choose to take anything personally, I am not enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've identified with the ego because the ego is this personal self, this separate self-identity. So the personal is that, and letting go of the personal returns us back to the oneness of love, which is not personal.
And within that, I don't need anything, and in not needing anything, I am enough for myself. So remember what we said about this mind and this heart, and the mind being the big brother and the heart being the little sister. So whatever happens was going to happen, whether I was there or not. That is the acceptance of life. And within that, I can accept that nothing is personal onto me, and I am enough in each and every moment if I choose to not take anything personally. The third agreement is never make any assumptions. And what does that mean, never make any assumptions?
I always used to say to my brokers that assumption is the mother of all fuck-ups. And that is so true. Again, because we don't know. We think we know, but we have no idea. So the only way to know is to ask. And like I said, even if you ask, you're also not even sure. So making assumptions is to think that you know more than somebody else, or to think that you know the motives of somebody else. And that is impossible. That is simply arrogance. You can never know.
Again, what is presented is this vibration of acceptance. Because the moment I make an assumption of anything outside of myself, not only am I wrong, but also will I pay the price for that assumption. And the price to pay is never something light or something beautiful. It's this mind that gets taken over by a story that is not true. And it's like you say, the only way for me to know is if I were to ask. So, to not make an assumption allows me the freedom of being present in this moment here and now. The moment I make an assumption, my mind takes over and I'm either in the past or I'm either projecting into the future and I am lost.
Assumptions are what the trickster does. The trickster wants you to make assumptions because in that, he keeps you stuck in the world of fear. So to bring yourself out of that and back to love would be to ask questions and be to approach anything and everything with this sense of curiosity, like a child, that I don't know, and that I've got no personal attachments or agenda with anything. I can just ask so that I understand.
I like that. Be like a child.
The fourth agreement is to always do your best.
Again, we get to bring in this vibration of acceptance. This me knowing that I am showing up the best that I can. And sometimes I will fail, and that is okay. And sometimes I won't fail, and that is also okay. One is not better than the other. I get to show up and do my best. And when I fail, I get to make this acknowledgement like, oh, I can see. Sometimes I get corrected by the world outside. Sometimes I get to correct myself. But to be in this vibration of acceptance that I did show up now, doing my best. It was not good enough. And I'm okay with that because now I know where and how to improve. And what we do ultimately when we do not show up out of this space of doing my best is there is so much judgment around how it should be, how it could be, how I want it to be, that I get to make justifications for why it is not the way that I want it. But by showing up from the space of I'm doing my best, I'm really giving my best, and I will know when I'm not doing my best. It would be something that I would feel inside, like, yeah, I did this half-ass, I could have done it better. And for me to hold myself to this agreement of always doing my best, I get to show up for myself.
And practice compassion and kindness for myself.
Absolutely.
Because in that there's no judgment, and it's the judgment where I get to abuse myself. So to do my best is to recognize when I failed, make a choice to do it better next time, to change something and do it differently, and to practice kindness and compassion and love because I can do nothing but my best.
That is truth.
And only that is good enough for myself.